Opposition calling on the government to seriously consider closing Australia's border with Indonesia. This is after fragments of the foot and mouth disease were found in Australia. They're not live, though. Important to know that. Joining us live now, though, is the Shadow Home Affairs Minister, Karen Andrews. So we've got these... Good morning to you, Karen, by the way. Good to see you. We've got these fragments now detected, intercepted by border security. Does that show that the system is working?
Look, it shows that the system is working to a point, but the reality is that we did get those meat products into Australia, and that is concerning. Look, let's be perfectly clear on this. Foot and mouth disease coming into Australia would be an absolute disaster, and Labor needs to be doing much more than it already is to prevent that disease coming into Australia. Look, absolutely, this is a race and Labor is barely out of the starting blocks. They need to demonstrate what they are doing to make sure that Australian producers of meat are going to be able to keep selling their product overseas. Because if we get foot and mouth disease into this country, it will take us potentially years to recover after we lose our disease-free status. So this is not something that Labor can take a softly, gently approach. And if this means that they have to slam that border shut to Indonesia, to Bali, they need to be taking serious action and doing so.
OK, well, it's got these... Murray Watts announced these protective mats that will be installed at international airports. Plus, it's got the security measures that your government had put in place in the past. Are you saying that that's not enough?
Well, what I'm saying is that we do have strong biosecurity measures here in Australia. Thankfully, that is already in place. Yes, when I heard that the mats were being implemented with citric acid, yes, that was a good thing. I did wonder why it has taken until now for that to be happening. But what is the government doing to assist Indonesia to make sure that some of this is detected before people get on the plane, so that they're not arriving in Australia, so meat products aren't arriving in Australia? So what are they doing to prevent it getting here, rather than relying on effectively the last resort, which is what is happening at our borders?
OK, so what help would you suggest we can give to Indonesia?
Well, certainly at the airports, we need to be looking at how we can assist with detection of foot and mouth disease, what we can do to make sure that people are properly cleaning their shoes and any items of clothing, that they're properly declaring what they have in their possession before they even get on the aircraft. Now, it's not clear to me that the government has acted to do anything at all in Indonesia to assist with the detection before these people arrive in Australia. They're relying on people making the proper declarations when they get here, and by and large people do, but not all, as we've seen demonstrated. But people are arriving, potentially, who have come through farmland areas and they've got waste product on their shoes, on their trousers potentially. They could have touched it. They could be bringing in a whole range of products. And it is much better to stop that before it gets to our borders.
Should the border be closed with Indonesia?
I think so. I think that we need to be looking, or Labor actually needs to be looking at what they can do to prevent this problem. Look, as I said earlier, this is not a softly, gently approach, because the risk of foot and mouth disease coming into Australia would be catastrophic for industry here. It would take them years to recover from that. We don't want that disease here, and Labor needs to be able to demonstrate that they are taking the threat as seriously as they need to protect our agricultural industries.
Do you not think that that's an overreach, though, by shutting the border again with Indonesia, one of our biggest trading partners?
I think that we have to do what it takes. Now, these mats, I believe, aren't in place yet. They're going to happen, so it's another gunner from the government. So what are they doing to protect us in the meantime until they have the proper measures in place and that they can guarantee that this disease will not come into Australia? If it has to be a temporary measure, that would be great. But let's not run the risk of foot and mouth disease coming into Australia.
But that would be a significant cost, wouldn't it, if we were to close the border with Indonesia again on a few different fronts?
This is an $80 billion industry. for Australia. It is very significant. And if you want to then extend it and say, well, what would happen if we lost that part of our ag sector here in Australia? It's going to drive up cost of living for people here in Australia because we're going to have to rely on bringing in product from overseas. That will be at a much higher cost. Availability will be down. That will drive prices up. That will have an impact on people's cost of living. So you can't just say that it would have a short-term impact. This would have a long-term impact if we got foot and mouth disease into Australia.
Has COVID now set the standard for quick closures of borders, if that's what you want for this to stop foot and mouth from coming into Australia?
Well, it's appropriate action that needs to be taken. And yes, the former government did shut the borders quickly to protect Australians, and that was an important thing to do. It also bought us time so that we could work with our health professionals, we could get the PPE that we needed in here, that we could get the ventilators that we need. That was all important things to do, and it bought time. And what the Australian government needs to be doing now is making sure that it is prepared to deal with the disease should it come into Australia. And I believe that there probably is a high level of preparedness here. But we need to buy ourselves the time that we need to ensure that we have the measures properly in place. We also need to make sure that we are supporting Indonesia and that we are providing support that's necessary to stop this disease before it gets to the border.
Karen Andrews, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.